The Drowned Visitor. My name is Ellie, and I've been working at the Sunrise Motel for almost a year now. It's a small place just off Highway 16 with about 40 rooms total. Nothing fancy, just your basic roadside motel where truckers and budget travelers stop for the night. I work the front desk from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., Thursday through Monday. Most nights are pretty quiet. I check in a few late arrivals, watch movies on my laptop, maybe do some homework for my online classes. The motel has a small lobby with the front desk, a couple of vending machines, and a sad-looking coffee station that I'm supposed to keep filled. Behind the desk, there's a tiny office with a security monitor that shows 4 different camera feeds: the parking lot, the lobby, and both hallways. The owner is pretty old school, so all our reservations are on a physical ledger, along with a computer system that looks like it's from 1998. About 3 months into working there, I had my first really strange experience. It was a Tuesday night in March, around 2 a.m. We only had 8 rooms occupied, and I hadn't seen a single person since my shift started. I was sitting at the desk reading when I heard the automatic door slide open. I looked up to see a man walking in. Tall, maybe in his 40s, wearing a dark jacket and jeans. Nothing particularly unusual about him, except for the fact that he was completely soaking wet. Not just damp, but dripping water onto the carpet with every step. The weird thing was, it wasn't raining. It hadn't rained in days. I straightened up as he approached the desk. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying to sound professional despite the strange situation. The man stared at me for a moment before speaking. His voice was raspy, like he hadn't used it in a while. "I need a room," he said simply. I nodded and started the check-in process, asking for his ID and credit card. He handed them over without a word. His name was Michael Simmons, according to his license, which looked legitimate. As I processed his payment, I couldn't help but notice that his hands were pruned, like they'd been in water for hours. Just passing through, I asked, trying to make conversation. He nodded slowly. Something like that. "Did you fall in water somewhere?" I finally asked, gesturing vaguely at his dripping clothes. The man looked down at himself, as if just noticing he was wet. "Oh, yes. Car trouble, near the lake." He pointed vaguely in the direction of Lake Morrison, which was about 15 miles away. I handed him his key card for room 118, which was at the far end of the east hallway. As he took it, his sleeve pulled up slightly, and I noticed something dark around his wrist. Not a tattoo, but almost like a bruise or rope burn. After he left, I immediately checked the cameras to watch him walk to his room. On the screen, I could see him moving down the hallway, still dripping water with every step. But the strangest thing happened when he reached his door. Before using the key card, he turned and looked directly at the camera. Then he smiled. Not a friendly smile, but something that made my skin crawl. It was like he knew I was watching. I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling and went back to my book. About 40 minutes later, the phone at the desk rang. It was 2:47 a.m. I remember checking the time because calls that late are never good news. I picked up the phone. "Front desk, this is Ellie." There was silence on the other end, then a faint sound like water dripping. "Hello?" I repeated. "Can I help you?" More silence, then a whisper so quiet I had to strain to hear it. "Come to 118. The voice didn't sound like the man who'd checked in. It was higher, almost like a child's voice. "I'm sorry, sir, is there a problem with your room?" I asked, trying to stay professional. "Come to 118, the voice repeated. Then the line went dead. I sat there for a moment, debating what to do. We didn't have any kind of security on site, just me. Protocol said I should check on guest complaints, but something felt seriously wrong. I decided to call the room back first. The phone rang and rang, but no one answered. I pulled up the security feed for the east hallway. The carpet outside room 118 was dark with water, but there was no movement. I watched for several minutes, but nothing happened. Finally, I decided I needed to at least walk by the room to see if I could hear anything concerning. I grabbed the master key and the small can of pepper spray I kept under the desk. The hallway was dead quiet as I walked down it, just the hum of the ice machine near the middle. As I got closer to 118, I could see that the carpet was indeed soaked. Water had pooled outside the door and was slowly spreading across the hallway. Standing to the side of the door, I knocked firmly. "Sir, this is the front desk. Is everything all right?" No response. I knocked again, louder. Still nothing. I pressed my ear against the door, and that's when I heard it. A sloshing sound, like someone walking through shallow water, and then what sounded like a child giggling. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. We didn't have any children checked in that night. I knew that for certain. I should have walked away. I should have called the police. Instead, I used the master key and opened the door a crack. The smell hit me first, a stagnant, murky odor like pond scum. I pushed the door open wider and saw that the entire floor was covered in about 2 inches of water. The bed, the nightstand, the TV, all normal and untouched. But water was everywhere, and it was dark, murky water, not clean water from a broken pipe. "Sir," I called out. The bathroom door was closed, with light showing underneath. I was about to call out again when I noticed something floating in the water near the bed. I squinted in the dim light to make it out. It looked like a small, pale hand just below the surface. I gasped and stumbled backward, pulling the door shut with a bang. I ran all the way back to the front desk and called 911 with shaking hands. The police arrived 12 minutes later. 2 officers went to check the room, while a third stayed with me at the desk. When the others returned, they looked confused. "Room's completely dry," one of them said. "No sign of water damage, nothing out of place." "No one's there." "That's not possible," I insisted. "I just saw it. The whole floor was flooded." They showed me photos they'd taken on their phones. The room looked completely normal. Dry carpet, made bed, nothing unusual at all. The officer asked to see the guest registration. I pulled up Mr. Simmons' information and showed them his details. One officer made a call, then gave me a strange look. "This license number doesn't exist in the system," he said, "and the credit card is coming up as invalid." They searched the motel but found no sign of the wet man. The security footage showed him entering his room, but never coming out. But the really chilling part, when they reviewed the hallway footage from when I went to check on the room, you can clearly see me walking down the hallway, stopping at the door and opening it. But there's no water. Not on the footage. The carpet looks completely dry. The next day, I researched Lake Morrison drownings and found that 3 years earlier, a man had driven his car into the lake with his 6-year-old son inside. Both had drowned. The man's name was Michael Simmons. I quit the following week. I don't know what happened that night, whether it was something supernatural or just my mind playing tricks on me. But to this day, I can't stand the sound of dripping water, and I never, ever answer phone calls after midnight. Story 2. The Man Who Wasn't There. I'm Jason, 24, and until recently, I worked the graveyard shift at a 24-hour gas station just off Interstate 40. It was a lonely spot, especially between 2 and 5 a.m., when even the truckers were mostly parked at the bigger stops down the highway. The station had a small convenience store attached with 3 aisles of snacks and necessities, a coffee machine, and a sad little hot dog roller that I was supposed to keep running all night. The manager had installed a decent security system after a robbery a few years back. 6 cameras covering the store, the register, the gas pumps, and the parking lot. All the feeds displayed on a monitor behind the counter. Most nights, I'd just stock shelves, clean, and watch videos on my phone when it was slow. The job was boring but easy. One Tuesday night in October, around 3:15 a.m., a car pulled into the lot. Nothing unusual about that. We'd get the occasional late-night traveler stopping for gas or coffee. What was strange was that the car parked at the far edge of the lot, nowhere near the pumps or the store entrance. It was an older sedan, dark-colored. I couldn't make out much detail because it was parked just at the edge of where our lot lights reached. The driver didn't get out. The car just sat there, Engine off, lights off. I kept glancing at the security monitor, waiting for someone to emerge, but nothing happened. After about 20 minutes, I started to get nervous. Maybe they were sleeping, or maybe they were casing the place for a robbery. I decided to log it in the incident book, noting the time and a description of the car. Around 4 a.m., I was restocking the coolers when I heard the door chime. I turned to see a man standing just inside the entrance. He was tall, wearing a dark jacket with the hood up, and he just stood there, not moving toward any of the aisles or the counter. I couldn't see his face clearly because of the hood and the way he was standing with his head slightly down. "Can I help you find anything?" I called out, trying to sound friendly despite my unease. The man didn't respond. He just slowly turned his head toward me. I still couldn't make out his features well, but I had the distinct impression he was staring right at me. "Our coffee's fresh if you need a pick-me-up," I tried again, moving behind the counter where the panic button was located. After what felt like forever, he finally spoke. "What time do you close?" His voice was oddly flat, with no accent or distinguishing features. "We're open 24 hours, I replied, gesturing to the sign on the door that stated this very clearly. "So, you're always here," he said. It wasn't a question. "Well, not me personally. We have shifts." I was getting seriously creeped out now. The man nodded slowly, then walked to the cooler, opened it, and took out a bottle of water. He brought it to the counter and placed a $5 bill down without a word. As I rang him up, I noticed his hands. They were incredibly pale and looked almost waxy, with long, thin fingers. There was dirt or something dark under his fingernails. "You need a receipt?" I asked, holding out his change. He stared at my name tag for a long moment. "No thank you, Jason." The way he said my name made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Then he took his water and left. I immediately checked the security footage to see if the man had come from the car at the edge of the lot, but the angle wasn't good enough to tell for sure. The car was still sitting there, though. About 10 minutes later, the door chimed again. A different man walked in, shorter, heavier, wearing a trucker cap and a flannel shirt, completely normal looking. He nodded at me as he headed for the coffee machine. "Hey, buddy," the trucker said as he was paying for his coffee. "You might want to check out that car in your lot." Passed it on my way in, and it looked like there might be someone slumped over in the driver's seat. My stomach dropped. "Thanks, I'll call it in," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. After he left, I immediately called the non-emergency police line. While I waited for them to arrive, I kept watching the car on the monitor. There was no movement, but now I was seeing what the trucker mentioned. What looked like a shape in the driver's seat. 2 officers arrived about 15 minutes later. I watched on the monitor as they approached the car cautiously, flashlights drawn. One officer looked back toward the store with an alarmed expression. Then they both moved quickly, drawing their weapons. Within seconds, 4 more police cars pulled in, with lights flashing. One of the officers came inside while the others secured the scene. He asked if I'd seen who had been driving the car. I told him about the hooded man who'd come in earlier. "Can you describe him again?" the officer asked, his face grim. I did my best, mentioning the hood, the pale hands, the strange way he spoke. The officer showed me a photo on his phone. "Is this the man who came in?" I looked at the picture and felt sick. It was a driver's license photo of a man with dark hair and a thin face. There was something familiar about him, but I couldn't be sure it was the same person since I hadn't seen the hooded man's face clearly. "I can't say for certain," I admitted. "Why? What's going on?" The officer hesitated, then said, "The owner of this car was reported missing 3 days ago. We just found his body in the trunk." I must have gone pale because the officer quickly guided me to a chair. "The thing is," he continued, "our initial assessment is that he's been dead for at least 48 hours. If you saw someone driving this car tonight." He didn't need to finish that sentence. Someone had been driving a dead man's car, and that someone had come into my store, bought water with money I had touched, and said my name in that chilling voice. I pulled up the security footage to show the officer the hooded man, but when we reviewed the tape, something impossible appeared. The camera showed me at the register talking and making change, but there was no one on the other side of the counter. I was apparently having a full conversation with thin air, yet the bottle of water was gone from the cooler. The register showed the sale, and the $5 bill was still there. I quit that night. The police investigated for weeks but never found the hooded man. They told me the car's owner had been stabbed multiple times and had defensive wounds on his hands, like he'd fought hard against his attacker. Sometimes I still think about those pale, waxy hands with the dirt under the fingernails. Except now, I wonder if it was dirt at all, or if it was something else entirely. Something like dried blood. I don't work night shifts anymore, and I always make sure to park under bright lights. Story 3. The humming in the basement. I started working night security at Westlake Mall about 6 months ago. It's one of those dying shopping centers. Half the stores are empty, but it's still hanging on somehow. My shift runs from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., and I'm the only security person in the entire mall during those hours. The cleaning crew is usually there until around 1 a.m., and then it's just me, walking the empty corridors every hour, checking doors, and monitoring the security cameras from the small office near the food court. The mall has 3 levels, plus a basement that's used for storage. It's an older building, probably from the late 80s, with lots of weird maintenance corridors and service areas that most people never see. My job is pretty straightforward. Make sure no one breaks in, check that nothing's on fire, and report any maintenance issues I find. The first few months were uneventful, boring even. I'd do my rounds, play games on my phone, watch the cameras, repeat. The mall had that strange liminal feeling at night. All these spaces designed for crowds of people sitting completely empty and silent. The fountains turned off, the storefronts dark, mannequins standing like frozen sentinels behind glass. About 2 months ago, I started noticing small things out of place during my rounds. A chair in the food court moved from one table to another. A maintenance door that I was sure I'd locked found slightly ajar. A display in one of the storefront windows rearranged. Nothing major, nothing threatening, just enough to make me wonder if I was misremembering or if the cleaning crew was messing with things. Then one night in June, around 3:30 a.m., I was sitting in the security office watching the monitors when I noticed movement on one of the screens. It was showing the north corridor on the second level, completely closed stores, no reason for anyone to be there. But something was moving. I leaned closer to the screen and saw what looked like a person walking slowly along the edge of the frame. They disappeared before I could get a good look. I grabbed my flashlight and radio and headed to the second level to check it out. The mall was dead silent, except for the quiet hum of the minimal night lighting and the occasional creak of the building. When I reached the north corridor, there was nobody there. I walked the entire length, checking each store entrance and service door. Everything was locked and secure. Back in the office, I rewound the security footage to see if I could get a better look at what I'd seen. The weird thing was, there was nothing there. The timestamp showed 3:28 a.m., right when I thought I'd seen someone, but the corridor was completely empty. I figured my eyes must have been playing tricks on me and went back to my rounds. A week later, it happened again. This time, I was on the first level near the west entrance when I heard footsteps above me. Clear, deliberate steps, like someone in hard-soled shoes walking at a normal pace. I looked up at the second-level balcony but couldn't see anyone. I called out, "Security, identify yourself." But the footsteps stopped immediately. I ran up the nearest escalator, turned off at night, of course, and hurried to where I thought the sounds had come from. Again, nothing. No signs of entry, no displaced items, just the empty, silent mall. The third incident was the one that really shook me. It was around 2:15 a.m., and I was doing my standard check of the basement level. The basement isn't open to the public. It's just storage areas, HVAC systems, and electrical rooms. The lighting down there is minimal, just enough to navigate without tripping over things. I was checking a row of storage rooms when my flashlight started to flicker. I smacked it against my palm a few times, and it stabilized. As I turned to continue down the corridor, I heard a soft sound coming from one of the rooms I'd already checked. Room B17, which mainly stored old holiday decorations. It sounded like humming, a low melodic humming that reminded me of a lullaby. I froze, listening. The sound was definitely coming from inside the room, and it was definitely human. I stepped back to the door and called out, "This is security. Is someone there?" The humming stopped abruptly. I put my ear to the door but couldn't hear anything else. My radio crackled suddenly, making me jump, but it was just static. I unlocked the door and swung it open slowly, keeping my flashlight pointed ahead of me. The room was crowded with large boxes and plastic bins labeled XMAS and Halloween. Old mannequins were stacked in one corner, their blank faces and limbless torsos creating disturbing shadows in my flashlight beam. I did a slow sweep of the room with my light. Nothing seemed out of place, and there was nowhere a person could easily hide except in the back corner, barely visible behind a stack of boxes, was what looked like a small office chair. I was sure it hadn't been there when I'd checked earlier. As I moved my flashlight beam back to it, the chair slowly swiveled to face me. There was no one in it. The chair just moved on its own, rotating about 90 degrees until it was pointing directly at me. I backed out of the room immediately, slammed the door, and locked it. My heart was pounding, and despite the cool basement air, I was sweating. I practically ran back to the elevator and returned to the main level. Once I'd calmed down a bit, I tried to rationalize what I'd seen. Maybe the chair was on an uneven surface and just settled when I opened the door. Maybe air pressure changes had moved it. I almost convinced myself it was nothing. Almost. The next night, I mentioned the strange occurrences to Dave, the evening security guard whose shift ended when mine began. He looked uncomfortable as soon as I brought it up. "You've been seeing things too, huh?" he said quietly, glancing around, even though we were alone in the office. "What do you mean, too?" I asked. Dave sighed. "Look, this stays between us, all right? Management doesn't like us talking about it." He told me that other night guards had reported similar experiences over the years. Movement on cameras that didn't show up in the footage. Unexplained sounds, items moved or rearranged. Most of them had written it off as pranks or imagination. "But you want to know the creepy part," Dave continued. "About 8 years ago, before they renovated the East Wing, they found a body in one of the ventilation shafts. A maintenance worker who'd been reported missing 6 months earlier. They determined he'd crawled in there to fix something and gotten stuck. Took him days to die." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Which ventilation system?" "The one that connects to the basement. Room B17 has one of the main access points." I didn't want to believe the mall was haunted, but after that night, things escalated. I'd hear my name whispered when no one was around. The security cameras would show brief glimpses of what looked like a person standing in empty corridors, only to disappear when I checked the footage. Once, I found all the chairs in the food court arranged in a perfect circle, even though I'd just walked through that area 20 minutes earlier and everything had been normal. The final straw came last week. I was in the security office around 4 a.m., watching the cameras as usual. The monitor that showed the basement corridor suddenly went static. When it cleared a few seconds later, there was a man standing directly in front of the camera. He was wearing what looked like an old maintenance uniform, his face gaunt and gray, his eyes sunken. He stared directly into the camera, then raised his hand slowly and pointed. Not at the camera, but to his right, toward room B17. The screen went to static again. When it cleared, the corridor was empty. I radioed in that there might be an intruder, and that I was going to check it out, making sure my call would be recorded in the security log. Part of me didn't want to go down there, but I also needed to know if someone was actually breaking in or if I was losing my mind. The basement was colder than usual as I stepped off the elevator. I walked slowly toward the camera where I'd seen the figure, my flashlight beam bouncing off the concrete walls. There was no sign of anyone. When I reached room B17, I noticed something odd. A faint light coming from underneath the door. Not bright like a flashlight, but a weak, yellowish glow. I stood there for what felt like minutes, trying to decide what to do. Finally, I put my hand on the doorknob. It was ice cold to the touch, much colder than it should have been. I was about to turn it when I heard the humming again. That same melodic, almost hypnotic sound. But this time, it was coming from right behind me. I spun around, but the corridor was empty. The humming continued, seemingly coming from all around me now. Then I heard a voice, barely above a whisper. "Don't open the door." He's still angry. I ran. I didn't stop until I reached the main level, and I spent the rest of my shift in the brightly lit center court area, unwilling to return to the security office or do any more rounds. I gave my 2 weeks' notice the next day. Tonight is my final shift. I'm sitting in the security office writing this down while keeping one eye on the monitors. I've been hearing the humming on and off all night. Sometimes distant, sometimes sounding like it's coming from right outside the office door. 5 minutes ago, the basement camera went to static again. When the picture returned, there was a message written on the wall that wasn't there before. Just 3 words scrawled in what looks like dirt or dust. "Check the shaft." My shift ends in 45 minutes. I don't know if I should report what I've seen or just walk away when my replacement arrives. Part of me wants to know what's in that ventilation shaft in room B17. Maybe there's evidence of another victim, someone the police never found. Or maybe I'm the target of an elaborate prank. Or maybe I'm just sleep-deprived and seeing things that aren't there. All I know is that the mall has never felt more threatening than it does right now, and the humming is getting louder. I keep checking over my shoulder, expecting to see a gaunt man in a maintenance uniform standing behind me. And I can't shake the feeling that if I make it to the end of this shift, it will be because something wants me to tell this story.